Yo, what's going on, guys? Today, I wanted to finally talk about the Toronto Raptors and what they're doing this season, which with Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes taking another leap, Ingram being this tactical surgeon, and the wonders of head coach Darko Rajaković. Did I say that correctly? I feel like I did. Also, Mamu. There's so much to talk about. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. Are you guys impressed with the Raptors? What is their ceiling and what needs to be addressed? If you guys enjoy this content, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get right into it. So let me hear your thoughts and let's get right into today's video. Now, when I think of this, it's not luck, baby. The Toronto Raptors sitting at 15-7, first in the Atlantic, second in the East. I think that's a statement. Everyone had them penned for a transitional year, maybe a play-in. But Darko Rajaković and this group did not get the memo. They've built something deliberate, something with teeth, and it's time we talk about how. Let's start with the system. Rajaković runs a half-second offense. It isn't just a playbook, it's a mentality. Catch the ball, you have half a second. Shoot it, drive, or move it. No sticking, no grinding. The action to a halt. We saw under Nick Nurse, this team lived in isolation. 3.5 more ISO plays per game. Now, that's gone. It's been replaced with dribble handoffs, back cuts, constant motion. The ball's moving, baby. And the stats that shows it is last season, they jumped to 28.5 assists a game, up nearly 5 from the year before. This season, that maturity is showing. They're speaking the language fluently. It's good to great every single possession. That's why their offensive rating is top 10. It's a system built for players who can think and act fast. This roster is built for exactly that. Now, the other side of the ball, they've traded the Woodpecker for the Cobra. The Woodpecker is all frantic activity, pecking away, gambling for steals, breaking the shell. The Cobra is disciplined. It's patient. It stays in front, it contests, and it strikes only when the kill is guaranteed. Early on, I'll be honest, the Raptors defense was messy, frenzied. Guys were overhelping, getting lost on switches. But the raw talent and the sheer length on this roster covered up those mistakes. You hear me knocking? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because now they've got Scottie Barnes. The raw talent and the sheer length on this roster that I mentioned covering up those mistakes, he's a defensive nightmare by himself. And now they've tightened the strings, a top 5 defensive rating, tell you the philosophy is taking root. The culture matches the scheme. Accountability. You don't play the right way, you don't buy into the half-second rule or the Cobra stance, Darko's gonna make you sit. It's firm, it's fair, and the locker room has bought in completely. This is a selfless group of teammates. Seriously. No egos. So this brings us to our big question. Everyone had the fit. On paper, it looked broken. You've got Immanuel Quickley, Barrett, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram. 4 guys who want and need the ball in their hand, who operate in the middle of the floor. In a pace and space league, Toronto looked like a pace and congestion team. How's it working? They didn't change the spots. They changed the timing. They've stratified the roles. Immanuel Quickley is the reluctant spacer. He's been pulled off ball, turned into the primary release valve. He wants to pull up. 36% of his diet used to be pull-up jumpers, but the team needs his catch and shoot gravity whenever he's not playmaking, and he's efficient there, hitting 38%. By putting him in the corner, if they've opened in lane to drive, which allows them to basically create inverted spacing, as obviously when you create a driving lane, you're able to do that. My apologies, not inverted spacing, but regular spacing through the shooting. And with that being said, you have Barrett, who's become the cutting savant, who's kind of doing what I said, the inverted spacing. He's not fighting for the touches at the top anymore. He's lying in wait. When Scottie Barnes or Brandon Ingram draws the defense and gets their attention, especially in the mid-range, Barrett is ghosting along the baseline, hovering around the dunker spot. He's averaging a devastating 1.65 points per possession on cuts. He's turning the defensive help rotation into a backdoor nightmare. That leaves Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram as the two hubs. This is the engine. They're kind of like co-engines. Barnes is the point forward, operating from the elbows in transition, creating chaos. Brandon Ingram is that assassin on the wing, the mid-range artist. They don't take turns, they work in tandem. Barnes collapses and Brandon Ingram finishes. It's creator-finisher dynamic that's symbiotic. So if they created functional spacing without shooting spacing, you don't need four guys parked at the arc when you have four guys who can all put it on the deck, make a read and attack a closeout. The defense can never settle as a result. Help on a Quickley drive, and he kicks it to a cutting RJ Barrett. Stay at home, and Brandon Ingram's going to rise up. It's pick your poison geometry. Now the star power. Every good team has to have some star power. Scottie Barnes has made the leap. We're talking 28-5 with 1.5 steals and 1.6 blocks. Yeah, baby, 3 stocks a game. And he's a 94-foot defender. We're talking 3-point shot is, yes, a little bit shaky, as he'll hit 39% for a stretch and then 27% the next few games. But inside the arc, he's averaging a career high 56%. And he's not settling. He's attacking. And a huge part of that leap is the arrival of Brandon Ingram that we didn't get to see last year, but now we are. And I think the biggest thing is that Barnes doesn't have to carry the half-court creation load every night. He can be the agent of chaos. As he said himself about Ingram, quote, "Give him the ball, get out of the way. He's going to put it in the basket," end quote. Brandon Ingram is the stabilizer. 20 points a night on 49% shooting. The 3-ball isn't falling yet, 25%, but it doesn't matter. When the half-second motion gets stalled, he's the get-out-of-the-way option, the bailout artist, and he gets a bucket. The reliability has risen the floor for the entire offense. I'll give you guys an example. Back when Chris Middleton was in his prime, Chris Middleton for the Bucks was Giannis's bailout artist, and that's kind of what Brandon Ingram is here. Now let's run through the rotation because the bench is where the identity gets cemented. The stars, as I said, Immanuel Quickley, the dynamic, reluctant spacer. His job is to hunt threes. The coaching staff wants him to attempt nearly 10 threes a game and keep the floor spread while being this playmaker. Then you got RJ Barrett, the elite slasher. He's the opportunist who's going to feed off the gravity of the other stars and, feed off the scraps. And then you have the mid-range scorer, the half-court anchor and safety valve, bailout artist, and Brandon Ingram. You got Scottie Barnes, who's kind of like a knight in chess. He's the point forward, the heartbeat, creates defense. He creates on there, he breaks defenses, he defends and ignites the fast break. And then Jakob Poeltl, he's a traditional big, a great screener, solid rim protector, rebounding big who can anchor both sides. And then the bench, they're like disruptors. This isn't a unit of 3-and-D clones. It's like a collection of specialists who can change the game's texture. Jamal Shed, the pit bull, an undersized 6-foot floor general with elite defensive instincts. He's a culture setter who picks up full court. The shot is a question, but his job to exhaust opposing ball handlers is something he does on a nightly basis. And then, obviously, Grady Dick, the movement shooter. At 6'8", he's the designated sniper. And he's gotten jacked, dude. He looks yoked. The defensive targeting is an issue, but his off-ball movement and shooting are huge and critical to spacing out the second unit. And Jonathan Mogbo, would you believe if I had told you last year that he would become this like DHO hub? At like 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, he's a rebounding, undersized big who can play the combo big. And he's a switchable defender, rebounding machine, and he's a brilliant passer from the short roll. And his advanced starts, he's a darling in the advanced stats department, but obviously a non-shooter. Then the second-year guy, Jacoby Walter, could become a 3-and-D player. It's a developmental project right now. Still a little raw, but 6'10" wingspan, and that shooting looks good. He gives the bench a more traditional wing profile. And then another guy, Colin Murray Boyles, who's also, obviously running those DHOs and making plays. And Mamu, who's kindly playing the Santi Aldama role, which if you guys didn't know, Santi Aldama lived with Darko Rajaković for an entire summer. And then the following season was when Santi Aldama took that massive leap. And Mamu plays like the 3, the 4 more than he does play the 5. And as a result, Colin and Jonathan Mogbo play more the backup 5. But Colin Murray-Boyles and Mamu together on the floor, this is a situational duo. Needs some grit, offensive scoring, offensive rebounding. You go Colin Murray-Boyles. Need some offensive passing and like this interesting point forward kind of own type of player. You roll with Mamu. So how are they doing it with 4 guys in the same spots? Synchronization and geometry. As we mentioned earlier, Scottie Barnes works early in the clock. Brandon Ingram works late in the clock. He's the bailout artist. And RJ Barrett has moved from the handler to the cutter. It's a timed, coordinated attack. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the 3-point shot. The data is clear to raise their ceiling. They're going to have to take more shots and have a higher 3-point volume, especially for the playoff run. But right now, they're winning without it because they're an elite transition team, dominant in the mid-range with Ingram and Barnes, and bludgeoning teams in the paint with cuts and size. It's sustainable for now, but the growth of Grady Dick and the willingness of Scottie Barnes to let it fly, even at a low percentage, will be the key to unlocking the next level. Bottom line, the Toronto Raptors are not a fluke. They are a tactical anomaly that has leaned into its own unique identity. They play fast, they play connected, and they play with a defensive discipline that's just now clicking. The integration of our boy, Brandon Ingram, has unlocked Scottie Barnes, and the specialized bench provides the depth to win different kinds of games. They turn preseason skepticism into a first place reality. They are the legitimate, sustainable surprise of the Eastern Conference, and they're coming for everybody. If you made it to the end, hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, guys, peace out. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave it. 100%.